All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. I see many people are still connecting now. I'm going to start now because it's 2:30 Central European Time. Here we are again with another exciting Skillman webinar today. I'm very glad that you joined us for this interesting discussion on learner-centered approach in education. This event wouldn't have been possible without the contribution and support of the European Training Foundation. So a big thanks to the ETF team, first of all, and also to the keynote speakers that are with us today to share their experience. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much to the audience as well for connecting from all over the world. I see from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Europe, even from the United States. I can hear a background noise. I would just kindly ask everybody to keep their microphones off. I'm getting straight down to that. You see on your screen that all the participants have their microphones muted and their cameras are off. So please, I would ask everybody to keep their microphones muted and their cameras off. Today, we're going to have an exciting webinar where we're going to start with two first presentations, and then we will have a Q&A space of 10 minutes, and then we will go with the last presentation, and again, another question and answer space. So basically, all the participants can, and we encourage you to do so, ask your questions and write your comments in the chat box. Throughout the whole webinar. You can do it at any time. And during those two spaces for questions and answers, Filippo from the European Training Foundation will address your questions to the speakers. And so that would be the space for discussion. Alternatively, you can also raise your hand with the button that you have here in your bottom bar. You can raise your hand and we will open the microphone for you to ask your questions directly. Moving on, a very quick self-presentation. My name is Valentina. I'm the communication manager of Skillman. Some of you might know me already. I'm very delighted today to introduce you to the speakers of today's session. Thank you, Florian Kadlitz, for being here with us today. He's a specialist in bed policies from the European Training Foundation. He will give a very general and theoretical view on the learner-centered approach and also the policies around it. After him, we will hear from Cornelia Lohinova, a teacher and teacher trainer. She's going to share with us the first best practice of this kind of approach. Then, as I mentioned already, we will have the first Q&A space for your questions and for your comments, and then we will go on with Valerie Mack, the project coordinator of the Ankara Chamber of Industry, and Sener Karabulut, associate professor at Hacettepe University, and they will, let's say, represent the second best practice of learner-centered approach. I'm not gonna indulge any further. I just want to introduce to you the Skillman Network as one of the hosts of today's webinar and contextualize a little bit this event within the Skillman Network. So the network is basically a very huge community of practitioners, researchers, institutions, and other stakeholders engaged in technical and vocational education and training in Tibet. To design and distribute work-based learning solutions to tackle today's skills mismatches. So Skillman stands for skills in manufacturing, in the manufacturing sector. And here you can see a few of our milestones that we have reached so far. We have more than 600 members from 300 plus regions in 93 countries. So we are a global international network. And we have achieved so much in the last in the last months that here you have all the numbers. We have created 4 peer learning clubs. Those groups that we're very proud of are the focus groups of experts that discuss and engage in interesting conversation and for Tibet-related topics. With them, we have published 4 position papers. We regularly organize a series of digital events like the one that we're having today. And as I saw from the participants lists, I saw many people who have already participated in some of our webinars. I will leave these numbers for you to check later. And I'm moving on with the geographical map. This is the geographical coverage of our members. They come from all over the world, and we have more than 600 members, as I said, from 93 countries, so from every corner of the world. The Skillman initiative is embedded in a project co-financed by the European Commission, which is called the SkillNet project. In the project, we work hard with these organizations that you see on the screen right now to develop a strategy of network of centers of vocational excellence. And this is why we cooperate with the European Training Foundation that helped us organizing this webinar today. Let's say, apart from the European Training Foundation, we also cooperate with the European Network of Innovation for Inclusion, with IVETA, the International Vocational Education and Training Association, with EAPRIL, and with the Assembly of European Regions. So this is just like an overview of our close partners, let's say. I would like to forward an invitation to all of you who are connected now and, of course, interested in the topic that we're addressing today. If you want to continue the discussion of these and other topics, please join one or more of our peer learning clubs. As I said, they are groups of experts coming from different backgrounds and different parts of the world, and they have one thing in common. They are interested in Tibet and innovation, digital skills, and green economy, and they want to discuss around those 4 topics that you see: the sectoral dimension, policy influencing, work-based learning, and train the trainers. So far, we have 208 members involved in those peer learning clubs, and now Emiliano is sharing with you in the chat box the links. If you're interested, please join one or, again, more of those groups. I want to remind all of you that we are live streaming on our YouTube channel, so please subscribe on Skillman.eu YouTube channel to have to watch this video after today and the previous webinars that we have been implementing so far. And we would like to have your feedback on the quality of this webinar. So here is a link, again, shared with you in the chat box, for you to tell us what you think about this specific webinar. Without any further delay, I would like to give the word to our first speaker, Florian Kadlec from the European Training Foundation. Florian, if you're connected, good afternoon. Hello.
Hello.
And the stage
nice to
is
be
all
with
yours.
you.
Thank you very much.
Will you share the presentation, or do I?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Then I'm just uploading it. So you should see the full screen now.
Yeah, it's not full screen, but
Not
it's
yet. Oh, wait a second. Now it should be with you. Do you have it on full screen?
yeah. We can see kind of a column on the right side. It's like the screen is split in two.
Maybe it's better you share it, Valentina, because I seem to be in the presentation mode.
Well, actually, right now it's okay.
Ah, sorry. I just stopped sharing again. Okay, I'm coming back. So you say you see it now in full screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. So I'm very happy to be with you today. My name is Florian Kadlitz. I'm working for the European Training Foundation, and I'm here working as a human capital development specialist. So, sorry, having problems moving my slide. Apologies. Oh, Valentina, I'm sorry. I prefer you share it because I'm having problems with my slide. Can you hear me, Valentina?
Yes, Florian. Filippo, can you share the screen for us with the presentation? Otherwise, Filippo, are you connected?
Just a second, just a second.
Thank you.
Very strange. I'm sorry for that. That never happened before. I'm completely blocked.
Okay.
I don't see anything anymore.
Okay.
Don't worry, Florian.
I share screen.
We have a backup plan. Don't worry, Florian. This can happen.
Well, at least I'm back now to the main screen. That was very weird. Never had that before.
Can you see it?
Can you put it full screen, Filippo, please?
Can you see now?
Yeah, you can move on.
So I'm very
see second
sorry
slide?
for that technical issue in the beginning. Does it work now?
Who's sharing, Florian? You or Filippo?
Myself.
I'm confused.
Can you see it?
Not in full screen, sorry. I see two columns.
I think you will have to deal with it because I'm not able to do it differently.
Then it's fine, completely fine.
Go, Florian.
Okay, apologies for that technical hiccup in the beginning. So as you can see, we all live and learn, and that's exactly what I'm going to talk about now. As you can see from the slide number 2, if you could move there, we plan to have a very interactive webinar today with a short introduction on student engagement, student-centered learning, and then looking at good practice cases and end with exchange and discussion. So the COVID-19 crisis forced many educators to provide distance and blended learning, as we do right now. And while it is already a challenge in a normal classroom setting, it is even more important during this special period of distance and blended learning to ensure that learners maintain motivated and that they maintain engaged and that learning actually takes place. And at the same time, distance or blended learning forced the learners to work more independently and the teachers to take over a new role as facilitators of learning with much less control than they used to have. And with all these challenges, there is also a great opportunity in it, because this experience, as we just had right now, it provides the evidence that also other ways of organizing teaching and learning are possible, besides the very traditional transmission of information from the teacher to the learner, which was always the standard. So different teaching methods serve, however, different purposes. Next slide, please. So lecturing, as I do now, is in several cases the best option. And it's important to say that there is nothing bad about traditional lecturing, but the lecture is just one teaching method amongst others, and it needs to be fit for purpose. So lectures can also be complemented with more active approaches like question and answer sessions, short talks, or peer work. Therefore, learners are not always passive in a lecture, but it depends, amongst other issues, on the learning outcomes, on the resources available, on the learners, and on the time available, if lecturing is actually the best method. Important is that the lecture focuses mainly on knowledge transmission, and on knowledge acquisition. Next slide, please. Alternatively, there are other teaching methods where learners are actively acquiring not only knowledge, but also skills and attitudes. And it is not so much that no skills or no attitudes are learned with traditional pedagogies, but they allow only for a limited range of skills and attitude development, and often do not develop those particular competences that are most needed in the 21st century society. So methods like problem-based learning, project-based learning, community learning, service learning, blended learning, flipped classroom, the traditional group work, they all are used to engage learners to be active in the learning process. So when we aim at developing the competence of learners, we need it all. We need the knowledge, we need the skills, and we need the attitude development. Next slide, please. So there is a strong need for multiple pedagogies, including traditional ones. And there is a need for teachers to be actually able to professionally judge and to choose the right mix of pedagogies that serve the purpose. And this is important for a couple of reasons. As we are all aware of the rapid changes in the labor market and the related changing skills demands triggered by globalization, digitalization, demographic change, migration, climate change, and COVID now. They all require high levels of adaptability, of flexibility, creativity, team working skills, lifelong learning competence. So learners need to acquire strong key competencies, meaning very good basic skills and transversal skills next to the solid technical skills. Well, learners cannot just be trained anymore in one specific technical skill set for one specific profession. They need to be prepared for regular task change, for regular company and even professional change. Therefore, the mere focus on technical skills and a fixed set of knowledge is not enough anymore. And in addition, there is very good scientific evidence that diverse and differentiated pedagogies that engage learners improve most types of learning outcomes. And if educators are responsible for ensuring learners are prepared for work and for life, they need to ensure learners acquire knowledge, basic skills, transversal skills, technical skills, and attitudes, like a lifelong learning attitude. And for that, the use of multiple pedagogies, including traditional ones, is needed, because you need activating pedagogies in order to learn certain skills and attitudes. You cannot just sit passively in the classroom. Next slide, please. So how to create a learner-centered learning environment in practice? In short, the student-centered learning means a shift from focusing on what knowledge the teacher should transmit to learners towards what competencies, so what skills, what knowledge, what attitudes learners are to acquire. It's about what learners will be able to know and be able to do. A student-centered learning environment is one where the focus of instruction is shifted from the teacher to the student with a specific end goal, meaning to support students to become autonomous and independent by placing the responsibility of learning in the hands of the learner. And by the way, this is one of the most effective ways to help students develop the competences required for independent problem solving and lifelong learning, which are two of the very important points today. So a couple of concrete things to do include allowing for student choice and autonomy. This could just simply mean involving them in the setting of learning outcomes in the beginning of the course, or providing project, classroom, homework assignment options they can choose from. But it could also simply mean allowing students to design their own seating arrangements. Another way is using open-ended question techniques. This practice encourages critical and creative thinking, enhances problem-solving skills. Open-ended questioning encourages clear communication and provides students with reassurance that their thoughts and ideas matter. Another way is encouraging student collaboration and group work. Because when students work with each other, they are learning much more than just the lesson content. They are gaining an appreciation of the diversity that exists in schools and communities, learn to deal with different point of views, other opinions, learn social skills. And they are also able to bounce their ideas back and forth with others, creating much more opportunities for creating their own ideas. A very important aspect is encouraging student reflection. Student reflection allows students to slow things down and take a step back from what they're doing to analyze. It allows them for their brains to process what they have been learning. Reflection creates space and time. So it allows to reach an understanding of what was learned in contrast to mere learning by heart for reproduction for a test. Related to this is a very important aspect, which is feedback. Feedback provision and reflection on feedback from peers and teachers is a very important element. Again, related is the use of formative assessment, a very strong method, formative assessment, to engage learners into the learning process, trigger reflection, awareness on strengths and areas for further development. Let me highlight 3 more points here. Another way to engage learners is to create individual self-paced assignments. This is about personalization and differentiation. We will hear about a bit later. Because not all students work at the same speed, and assignments should reflect that. Allowing students to move through material at a rate that best fits their learning styles and their learning needs makes it much more likely that they will actually gain deeper understanding of the subject matter. Important today is the use of technology. So an online environment in practice can serve as a physical space for student collaboration, for supporting the learning that takes place inside the classroom. And those kind of online spaces, they offer a number of virtual services like making assistance, courses, resources available online and at all times. So for learning to be extended beyond the physical classroom, it's necessary to create that inviting out of classroom environment for active learning so that students can engage in learning at any time they want in their own pace. And finally, getting students involved in community-based activities and service learning projects. It helps the students understand the relevance of school learning for the real world and helps to see their own important role in that larger world. They're giving the chance to learn how valuable and fulfilling it can be also to give back to others. Learning becomes more organic, less rigid. Students have the opportunity to see firsthand that learning opportunities surround us everywhere we go. It's not just in classroom. So those are just a selection of many ways to engage learners in active learning. And one step further, because student-centered learning basically means having a competence-based approach with learning outcomes, but one step further is then even personalization of learning. And this can be done at 3 levels. Personalizing the learning content. Second, personalizing the process of learning. And third, personalizing the results of learning. And please move to the next slide. Let's start with personalizing the learning content to allow for individual pathways. So this can be done by offering options for learning contexts. So students, learners should be able to choose between a classroom-based setting or a workplace learning. Offering options between for the sequence of learning through modularizing programs. Students can start with modules they're interested in first before engaging into others. Tailoring competences to individual learning and career objectives. So when we know prior the competence level, we can tailor the learning to current levels of achievement. And here, last but not least, working with individual learning plans is one of the maximum version of personalization. We see in Finland that they're trying to do this. Next slide, please. Personalizing the process of learning. This can be done through various means, introducing project-based, authentic learning, providing learners with open-ended tasks I mentioned before, collaborative and peer learning, reflective learning as mentioned before. An interesting point here is coaching. Rather than giving the learner a set of rules to learn and then to follow, the coach actually provides feedback in relation to practice. For example, practicing of certain skills, encouraging learning from that practice, and also learning from the experience of the teacher. An interesting trend is digital personalized learning, like supporting the learning based on the analysis of performance data. And next slide, please. And finally, personalizing the results of learning. And this can be done through setting individual learning goals in relation to learning outcomes with the help of formative assessment. So formative assessment is carried out, which provides evidence that helps then the teacher and the learner to define the next stages of learning towards achieving the general learning outcomes. Or recognizing individual achievements. Portfolios, if digital or not, are a very good tool to allow for this. Also, linking personal and career education to technical programs is a strong tool, because through personalized career education, you develop your personality based on where you stood before at the beginning. And last but not least, supporting transitions into employment or further study, for example, through work placements that supports the personalization of learning outcomes. Summarizing what I said so far, we looked a lot at the micro level now. But what does it need to realize student-centered learning? What changes in policies, processes, organizational structures of schools are needed? And next slide, please. And looking at that more general level, macro level, as you saw from my last slides, many things can actually be done by teachers individually, but we know that it needs much more for a system and culture change. And teachers, as the most important key stakeholder in this reform, they cannot and must not be left alone. So it needs other support. It needs the redesigning of the curricula to include student-centered approaches to teaching and learning. That means particularly introducing a competence-based approach building on learning outcomes that describes and puts the focus on what the student should be able to know, be able to do, and attitudes to develop after having gone through the program. It means introducing more flexibility into curricula for teachers. It means emphasizing interdisciplinary learning to make understanding of bigger concepts possible, to balance summative and formative assessments. So on the curricular level, there is a lot that can be done. But it's also about redesigning initial teacher education programs and providing support for teachers that are already in service through continuous professional development programs. And there, we also need to look at innovation. Let's emphasize more the peer learning through front runners who support other teachers, or give more autonomy to schools in identifying needs and organize targeted CPD programs. Then another important change that needs to take place is the offering of didactical support. So if you provide teachers with materials, with project topics, with processes, that helps a lot. An important aspect also is quality assurance. I think a good support for cultural change, because that takes quite long, is if quality assurance frameworks focus on the quality assessment practices, how assessment is done in relation to learner achievement of learning outcomes. Last but not least, very important, national policy, laying down, putting the basis for a culture for student-centered learning. So ministries of education need to take leadership in emphasizing a student-centered education culture through well-defined policy. A student-centered approach needs to be clearly and simply articulated, and mechanisms need to be in place to allow for every stakeholder in the education process to be fully informed about the processes arising from such an educational approach. So institutions need to develop a sense of belonging to the wider applicable policy on student-centered learning in line with the national or regional policy. Next slide, and that should be my last one. To conclude, let me briefly make you aware of a new ETF initiative called Creating New Learning. It's a 5-year initiative to implement research in innovation in teaching and learning. We will also run a couple of pilots that are 18-month-long pilots to test new ways of teaching and learning in practice. These pilots are structured as participatory research projects. In particular, we're interested in personalization, collaboration, authentic learning, learning across environments, from work to school to non-formal, and the use of digital technologies, for example, formative digital assessment. So more concretely, ETF plans to develop partnerships for innovation in teaching and learning, one in initial education and training and one in adult education and learning. And for each of those, we want to gather 4 to 5 educational organizations from ETF partner countries, together with businesses, NGOs, universities, local government agencies, in order to run those pilots. So we would offer those participating organizations mentoring, training, support for resource development through contracted organizations and by ETF itself. So if you're from an ETF partner country and interested, please let us know. So in that sense, let's keep in touch and cooperate. Thanks for your attention, and sorry again for the hiccup in the beginning.
Thank you, Florian. Thank you very much. No problem with the issues, you know, like we're not recording this, we're doing this live. So of course, sometimes we can have those problems, but we had the backup from Filippo. So we're a good team. We're a good team. Moving on, we have our first example coming from Cornelia Loinova. So if you're connected and if you can hear me, you can share with us your initiatives and your experience of what happens with you, Cornelia. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. So you can see this is me lazy teacher, trying to engage my students with activities they like, activities that are meaningful for them. And of course, I want, what I really want from them is to enjoy learning, and I want to enjoy teaching. So for me, boredom is one of the greatest enemies of successful learning. And variety is like a spice of life, right? So why lazy? Because once my friend, who is a great teacher, said that not a teacher, but students should come tired from school. And yes, I agree. So I decided to have students in my classroom who feel responsible for their work, who set their learning goals and are motivated to achieve them. So because I believe that if we want to prepare our children for their successful future, it's time to give them this autonomy and skills and trust. So in past, we wanted students who, like good students, it meant that students were able to study hard, get good grade, then maybe study at university, secure a good job. But now we know that employers need self-directed employees. And also, of course, we need entrepreneurs. And that's why it means for me that we need self-directed students. We need to develop student agency. So simply said, when students are active participants in their learning, they have taken ownership of their learning, they have autonomy, they have competence, and they have power to shape their learning path and realize their learning outcomes, of course, in ways that are appropriate for their development level. And the question is how to foster the student agency. So, of course, it's necessary to create positive and safe learning environment. And I'm going to show you what I do and how I create such a learning environment for my students, or to support student-centered learning and student agency. So I think that the most important is to have good relationships between teacher and students, and of course parents, because students should feel that they are supported. Students should feel valued and safe and free to ask questions and express their opinions. And when students know that the teacher cares about them, their success, their well-being, so then they feel just comfortable, maybe go for challenges or make mistakes and learn from them and just do their best to achieve the mastery. So this is task number one for me. And yes, we teach students, not subjects. So, and I call it like the strict kindness, or being firm and kind at the same time. And then I believe that social and emotional learning is central, because students are able to self-regulate. And they can plan, they can set goals and learning strategies, they reflect, and of course, they can self-evaluate their work and change their work if necessary. And of course, students who respect others and feel empathy then can build these healthy relationships and work in teams, and of course, have in mind maybe consequences of their actions. So for me, it means that I devote really time to the activities that develop social and emotional intelligence. And I keep in mind catching students doing right. Usually we teachers somehow, what we do is trying to catch students doing something wrong, but I catch them doing right things and praise them for the efforts. We have also like culture of giving kudos to each other and be grateful for what others have done for us. So, and And yes, I like the document of the University of Chicago about the importance to develop 4 learning mindsets. So the mindsets, number 1 is like growth mindset. So I can change my intelligence and abilities through effort. Yes, then it's this self-efficacy. Yes, I can succeed. And then very important sense of belonging. Of course, I belong to this learning community. It's important for students. And then relevance. Yes, this work has value for me and purpose for me. And so having in mind these learning mindsets, I do my best to create safe environment. It means that we have the rules at the beginning of the school year. We set the rules, norms, or expectations and instructions. At the beginning, of course, students need more this guidance and support, of myself, of a teacher. So they need to learn how to set the goals, or find resources, and how to learn maybe from their mistakes, how to manage their learning process, and what learning strategies to use. So we work on this, and also how to, of course, manage emotions and work in teams, collaborate, negotiate, maybe deal with frustration, conflicts. So time management, all these things are important, because it's like learning to learn skills. So we really devote a lot of time to this at the beginning of the school year, and then throughout the year as well. Because sometimes we may think maybe that students just learn those skills, that they do their work, but without instructions and reflections, I think that the result may be not the one we want. And then, as I told you, step by step, teachers should have this approach of a lazy teacher. It means that let students do what they are able to do and take a role of a mentor. And so not doing this micromanagement all the time. So, and of course, I forgot to mention that we should have fun and laugh and enjoy time at school. So that is something that is important. And then, of course, students need to have this opportunity to voice their opinions about everything. How, when, where they will learn. And of course, it doesn't mean that we let them decide about all this just suddenly. It is process. And so it means for me that their learning is individualized according to their learning needs and styles. And they can demonstrate understanding in multiple ways. They can demonstrate it in their own pace. And so I give my students choice about what they want to learn, how they want to evidence their learning maybe. And yes, we have portfolios. I ask them to create portfolios. We use this learning management. Yes, we use Microsoft Teams when they have all these like portfolio, and it's like nice displays of their work. And what I like to offer them is choice boards. So choice boards are a form of learning that gives students like menu or choice of learning activities. So every student has like different strengths or styles and interests. So, so this one still. So what types of choice boards I use is like, as you can see on the right, so it's like tic-tac-toe. So they can, these colors represent difficulty also, but they have to choose like 3 of the activities, and so vertical, diagonal, or so it's always, so this is for example, choice board, how they want to learn about marketing and resources. And then I sometimes use just a simple list of activities with points for each activity, and students have to achieve certain score, and their decision what. Or maybe you can see on the left side, it's for geography lesson. So we learned about tourist attractions of the country. So, and they had 6 possibilities how to present the country. So it was like a kind of project-based learning, and students' teams were like representatives of the National Tourist Board that is responsible for promotion of the country. And they had these possibilities like to create TED Talk or itinerary or video, blog, or even story for children. Or then this kind like a restaurant menu. So this is for teachers that I created, but as you can see, they can choose one appetizer, main dish, or dessert, or so there are activities. So it's a kind of choice for them. And and another like responsibility for me is to create environment that supports learning as a goal. So students have the intrinsic motivation, and of course it can happen when this learning is interesting and matters to the students. It's important for them. So of course we use project-based learning and design thinking, entrepreneurial learning, and all these tools can make this happen. And at least once a year, also students do community projects. So we have a challenge called Make a Difference. So they bring in teams and they on these questions, and they present then the ideas, and then they choose one and they have to organize it, like put it into practice. And we also had many international partners to collaborate, to work with us on this. And of course, this is fantastic because students learn a lot. They are proud that they helped community, you know, they created value, and it has just huge impact on their well-being and also like motivation, this feeling of belonging or purpose. It's important. And yes. So I would like to just stress again that students need to understand what they are doing and why they are doing this, and maybe how it is going to help them. So they should see like their daily efforts as a progression, and for this we use or apply EduScrum. And of course I have to follow curriculum, but I also want students to be these active participants of their learning. So I break curriculum into small portions, and then introduce different learning pathways to students, and students can see what they have to accomplish. And then they set goals and steps. So this EduScrum, it comes from IT business, and it's applied in education as yes, EduScrum is a framework for coaching students. So simply said, teachers just have responsibility of what needs to be learned, and student teams that consist of autonomous students, they just decide how to achieve this goal. So it's important that I can see every day what students are working on. They have their Scrum board to show their progress. I will show you in a minute. So first, we agree together upon the outcomes, and then they, in teams, brainstorm what they need to do. At school, we use Post-it for this and a big sheet of paper, but we use also online, we work like that, and we used online Trello board. So they know what to do and also decide when those activities should be done. So it's a kind of planning. Yes, an important part of this EduScrum is stand-up. So at the beginning of each lesson, they have 5 minutes meeting of the team to discuss what has been done, what to do next, and who is responsible for that. And then they work on it, and as you can see, they move activities from to-do part. Yes, it is in Slovak. I'm sorry, because yes, I don't teach English, but so they move these activities to do to in progress. And then I also added like this column of peer review, because after peer review, they can move activity to done. And of course, before that, we have rubrics what does it mean to be done? And we create it together. So it's a collaborative work again. So in fact, they are just self-organized teams. I'm just there to facilitate and support them. I can see anytime what they are working on. And of course, they have their team roles. And at the end, there is important part of reflection and self-evaluation. And so this can last 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. So students learn step by step how to collaborate and then be responsible learners. Of course, I just don't use this Edu Scrum all the time because, as I mentioned, variety is the spice of life. But this is, my students really like this. I can't say that it was easy for them because time management was a bit problem. But when you just work with them, next time it's much better. And so yes, hand in hand with this positive and safe classroom culture goes, of course, this innovative, like flexible physical space, because it has impact on students. If you have flexible seating arrangements, space where students can interact, collaborate, but also explore or just even relax, space where students feel like home, you know, with maybe informal furniture elements. So it has all impact on how well students feel. Of course, teachers as well. And what I do at the beginning of the school year, I welcome them in an empty classroom and let them create their space for learning. And students really like doing this. So yes, so let's revise a bit. Maybe I have said already that students should know and have what they have mastered and what to do next. So if we give them this learning pathway they can choose, it's important, of course, to give them appropriate assessment. And I use this assessment that allows students to understand how much they have learned. So empowering them just to adjust their learning strategies. And of course, this assessment also allows teachers, this formative assessment as learning or for learning, allows teachers to understand how and if learners are learning and adjust the teaching. So this is important, feedback for teachers and learners, so that both parties can somehow reflect and improve. And of course, we reflect on a regular basis, and we use self and peer assessment and decide what next learning will be like. And yes, maybe I should also mention this technology, as we already heard that it's important. It's part of life of the student, and of course provides opportunities for making learning effective. So and I have many projects, international projects. So I've been an eTwinning teacher and Twinning ambassador for maybe 15 years. So we've done a lot of international projects, eTwinning and Erasmus as well. And technology is inevitable for us. So because it just enables to also keep track of student learning. I've already mentioned that we have learning portfolios, and so we use a lot of different tools at school, and of course a learning management system. And yes, this important thing that using technology is just a tool, not a goal. So maybe just this summarizing that these are like elements of what I do for supporting this student agency of student-centered learning. Thanks you.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Cornelia.
Interesting. What do you say, Filippo? Are you curious to see what is the feedback from the people connected? I see
we have already the first question. Is from Yusuf. He says, I like the idea of engaging students on community projects. My only concerns, in your experience, how is the funding achieved for projects requiring financing? So basically, how do you actually cope with the financial cost of community projects? And
yes, for example, what we did, I will mention one project that we do. We have done it four times, like 4 years. It was, for example, like CAP Run. It was charity run where students organized this run to help. We connected with Sierra Leone children because there were floods then and their school was really destroyed. So we invited schools in Bratislava region. It was their project, so they had to ask other headmasters to allow the students to run with us, and there was just a fee like €2 or €3 for this. So it was like kind of funding. So students were running for that, and it was a huge organization because we had really maybe 600 or 700 runners, so students from, it was elementary and also secondary schools. And then what was great, and I really have to mention this, that then we had Skype call with those little children from Sierra Leone. And it was something that was for my students really such a huge reward, and they learned so much because they needed to deal with headmasters from other schools, from our, to persuade students or motivate. So organize. We even, of course, had to reach our municipality and lots of things that were connected with this to arrange. But so they did it, and it was really a huge success. And
we have 3 questions. I know you have to. So when you have to leave, there's no. I mean, we will continue with the other sessions. I know that you've already given us a lot of time, but I know you have other engagements. So very, very to the point. The first is classes size. To what extent can you run this type of methodology in large classes? And then the second question is, what about the motivations of teachers to use more learning-centered approach? I mean,
okay,
if you see the colleagues around you, I mean, how are you suggesting them to actually move to this type of approach?
Yes, so I have my students, around 30 students in my class. So it depends. Sometimes it's less, sometimes more, but the highest number is 34 that I had. Oh. And the lowest was 24. So it's like, and so this motivation, as for my motivation, I am a member of, as I mentioned, eTwinning, and I had to stress that when I don't find motivation and inspiration in my colleagues around me, so then for sure for teachers I would recommend these professional learning networks, because there you can find a lot of ideas, inspiration, and there's something that that it pushes you or pulling you, so just to move, to continue and improve your work. And then when my colleagues also, I have to say that when my colleagues see that even I've taught many of their children, I mean their daughters or sons, and they just saw that students or their children were really happy that this different kind of teaching really had a lot of benefits for them. And so step by step, I have to say that at the beginning I was like a black sheep. but now it's different. Now I think that they respect what I do, and I have also support of my headmaster. I have to maybe mention that I also do Erasmus projects, and when I take my headmaster to some of these like projects meeting, and they see that really the teaching can be different and how happy students are when doing this kind of projects, then it has impact. So you need to know how to deal with people.
One last question I have it's been raised also from our participant, and I would like also to focus on this. Did you have problems in dealing with the quantity of the curriculum? So what we were supposed to teach students in terms of how many informations to pass to them? Was it a problem to deal with it with the new pedagogy? So is this type of pedagogy teaching students broader competences but with less content, or you managed to implement the same curriculum you were implementing before?
Yes, the question is that, of course, we have this curriculum and I follow it, yes. But sometimes we teachers tend to be like focus on details that are not so necessary, you know. So sometimes we just think that when we teach a lot, then students learn a lot. It's not true. According to me, when we teach less, students learn more. I mean, when we teach as teachers, because they can find they pathways how to acquire those content. And what I do is that I do, for example, genius hour with my students. Genius hour in my lesson, it means not that they have to focus on their passion, but that is connected with this somehow curricula or this subject that I teach. And then when they work on it, then they have to present, of course, and somehow to share their passion so that we feel passionate as well. And they go deeply, and they, I like really peer-to-peer learning. So when they collaborate, when I have feedback, because I always ask them for feedback on my teaching and my role, of course. And they really like when they can teach each other and learn from each other. And I have to stress that I really, variety is a spice of life, and I really like use different kind of methods so that they can, we have enough time to learn whatever is necessary. I'm sure that. And I really have to say that my students, so I teach a secondary school, and my students, when they are at the university, they just come to me back and they just to thank that they really had such a easy life then at universities, because many things, content already they have learned at school from me. And I just would like to stress that teachers, most of all these details, just students will forget. And they will never forget maybe all these experiences and the skills and competencies that they acquire at school.
Thank you very much, Cornelia. I think it was a very interesting presentation. It was really a pleasure to have you with us. I know that you have to leave, so I would suggest we move to the next presentation. There's one or two questions that are still pending. We can maybe address them following the next presentation.
Filippo, may I suggest something? May I ask Cornelia to share again her email address in the chat box, so if anyone wants to keep in touch with you, they can do it after the webinar?
Yes. I am going to write. Thank you.
Thank you very much again for your availability, for your excellent quality in the presentation.
Okay, so it's there. It's very easy. Just my surname and Gmail. And you are welcome anytime. And I'm on Twitter. I already passed this Twitter handle. So yes.
Thanks again.
So, thank you. And bye. I will.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, Filippo, so I think we're up with the first question and answer session. We're moving on to our second best practice of the day. This time we're having Valerie Mack, project coordinator from the Ankara Chamber of Industry, and her colleague who are connected with us, Sener. Good afternoon to both of you. I know that you are sharing a presentation as well, so if you want to take the floor, you can now share the presentation. Let me double check if you can. Yeah.
Can you, hello, can you see my screen?
Can you put it full screen, please?
Yeah, okay.
Yes, now we can. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Şener Karabut. I'm working at Hacettepe University Vocational College, which is located in the industrial zone within the industry university collaboration. And I am working as associated professor. And in this presentation, I will talk about the research we have done to determine the effects of digital transformation in the industry and the vocational education schools. I will give a brief information about the project, project partners, and the aim of the research. Then I will share with you the questionnaire results applied to the companies in 8 different EU countries during this presentation. Throughout history, industry revolutions have been named after certain events, such as the invention of the steam machine, electricity, and the use of automation, and the computer technologies in production system. We are in the middle of the significant transformations thanks to digitalization of manufacturing, and this transition is being called Industry 4.0. A combination of cyber-physical systems and the Internet of Things make Industry 4.0 possible and the smart factory a reality. As a result of the support of smart machines that keep getting smarter as they get access to more data, and the factories will become more efficient and productive. The high degree of digitalization of industry and the increase in professional qualifications allow work to be done faster, smoothly, and efficiently in many areas. At the same time, the production sector continues to integrate the opportunities offered by technology in their production system. On the other hand, although the manufacturing sector has changed drastically in the last 2 decades, the education and training systems, including the curricula, have not changed at the same speed. At this point, it is necessary to learn how Industry 4.0 and the digital transformation will affect the manufacturing industry and what they expect from graduates of vocational education. Therefore, we have decided to perform an EU project to determine the expectations of companies under coordination of Ankara Chamber of Industry with the participation of 7 countries from European Union. The project started in 2018 and intended to create tests to reveal students' vocational abilities, learning styles, social abilities, and working styles to develop a new curriculum according to learning styles and market demands. Our project partners consist of non-governmental organizations, training centers, and Chamber of Industries, and partners distributed in England, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Spain, and France. Field work was carried out in order to determine the skills demanded in the sector, which is one of the project objectives. First of all, a questionnaire was prepared and applied to companies in partner countries, and we have focused on determining the digital transformation process and what they understand from the Industry 4.0, whether they have a strategy for digital transformation or not, and what level of competence and skills they look for in the people they wish to hire and employ, their expectations from vocational and technical institutions. There were 21 questions in the survey, and a total of 408 companies participated in the field study in partner countries, and you can see the companies from partner countries. The companies are located in very different sectors, from manufacturing to service companies. The sectoral distributions of companies can be seen in the graph. British and Turkish companies are involved in manufacturing sector, whereas all Polish companies are involved in service sector. It was seen that the companies in Estonia, France, Latvia and Spain have also information technology and the service sectors. The Finnish companies participated in the survey were mostly in the service sector. The first question was, are you familiar with Industry 4.0 or the fourth industry revolution? In the questionnaire, we can see the response of the company for this question, and we can say that the companies have information about Industry 4.0, but this information is not complete. This knowledge changes according to sector and companies, countries. Most of Polish companies have basic knowledge about the industrial revolution. Finnish companies mostly responded, not all familiar with it. And this result may be related to companies from the service sector participated in the surveys in Finland. The service sector may not be aware of the effects on the Industry 4.0. Spanish companies are well knowledgeable about Industry 4.0, and this result can be linked to Spain's being in a very good position in automation technologies. And Turkish companies responded very familiar. This result can be related that the surveys were conducted in Ankara, capital city of Turkey, and a model factory, digital transformation center, we can say digital transformation center, was established in Ankara, and intensive information briefings were held on digitalization for companies in Ankara. Also, we think that the companies in Spain and Turkey confused about the automation systems and Industry 4.0. One of the key questions in survey was, what skills are needed to meet new production demands with regards to Industry 4.0? And we can see in the graph, data management, cybersecurity, and the digital skill have emerged as very important issues in every country seen in the graph. Of course, these outstanding skills change according to priorities of the sectors. For example, nanotechnology has come to the forefront in Turkey because field work is done by manufacturing sector in Turkey. Several of British, French, Latvian, Spanish companies have identified different skills besides the skills given in the survey. French companies have added leadership, remote management of machines, virtual reality, and soft skills. Latvian companies that have defined a different skill have added the ability to remotely manage machines using the virtual reality technology, while all Spanish companies that have defined a different skills have added to robotics and automation. Another important question in survey was, what competencies, skills are required for working, implementing Industry 4.0? We can see the results on the graph, and professional skills are more preferred in British, Estonian, French, Latvian, and Polish companies. However, it should be noted that the percentage of social skills in French, Latvian, and Polish companies are fairly close to percentage of professional skills. In Finnish and Turkish companies, social skills are observed to be more preferred competencies. However, it should also be noted that the percentage of professional skills in Turkish companies is quite close to that social skills. Spanish companies do not have an answer to this question, and we don't know why they respond to this question. It can be seen that the positive attitude skills exceeds 50%, being the highest ratio among the most important skills in companies in 6 countries. These countries are England, Estonia, France, Finland, Latvia, and Turkey, respectively. In Finnish companies, only these social skills has exceeded 50% with the highest rate. Another social skills that has exceeded 50% in British companies, critical thinking. In Spanish companies, the ability to adapt to new conditions and flexibility is preferred at the rate over 50%. Another social skills appears to be openness to change and new technologies. This skills is preferred for more than 50% as most important by Estonia, Latvia, and Turkey. Problem solving, collaboration, and teamwork skills are preferred at over 50% by Polish companies, whereas the preference rate of such skills by Estonia, France, and Turkish companies over 50%. Cross-cultural competence is preferred more by Estonian and Latvian companies. A look at the skills of work ethic indicates that Estonian, French, and Turkish companies seem to care about the social skill most importantly. Creativity, and innovation social skills are preferred by Turkish companies and as most important only by 50% at the time. It is the results as to whether it's easy to find employees with the skills needed for specific job position in Industry 4.0 can be seen in the graph. Most of partners stated that these employees are difficult to find. Nearly half of British and Finnish companies do not have any knowledge. It is suggested that those with an opinion think it is difficult to find such employees. It can be seen that the top three shortages affecting the companies in partner countries are the lack of engineering or technical skills, the lack of qualified young people seeking to enter the industry or looking for a new engineering and technical career, and a lack of engineering or technical skills at the operative or semi-skilled craft level. In the context of Industry 4.0, results about whether the role of training is important for the development of vocational school students or technicians are provided in the graph. The graph indicates that the role of the training is regarded as highly important in each country. There are companies in British, Estonian, French, Latvian, and Turkish companies have stated that the role of the training is significant, except Spain companies. It was seen that all companies except Spanish companies will not eager to cooperate with any training organization to adapt to digital transformation. Most British companies stated that training organizations are far behind the industry and therefore are incompetent in understanding the needs. Companies responded as the barriers to the development of students, technicians of the training organization for Industry 4.0 as lack of industrial training, quality and lack of resources, quality and demand supply mismatch. All companies in partner countries firstly suggested developing new curricula for vocational training in accordance with the company demands. The graph shows that the cooperation between companies and the universities in French and Spanish companies also have a close ratio as developing new curricula for vocational training in accordance with the company demands. On the other hand, Finnish and Turkish companies suggested cooperation between companies and universities than developing curricula, but these two items still have a fairly close percentage. Overall evaluation of the research, we can say that the training given in that is not compatible with the demands of the sector. It is very important to update curricula through cooperation with sectors in order to meet the demands from the sector. The field study showed that the necessity of arranging the curricula according to demands of the sector or adding new subjects has emerged. The technical capacity of web teachers needs to be improved according to sector demands. Since wet graduate students have skills demanded in the sector, they need to be retrained. It can be said that the graduate students are likely to be unemployed for a long time, and retraining is provided by the company after they are hired. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Shana.
And also Valerie will share the whole reports from the chat.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to tell you that we will post not only your information, but additional your presentation, but additional information on the Skillman webpage related to this event, so participants can look at the information there. And if you want to actually share the link to the webpage to other colleagues of yours who could be interested, you can do it. So you will have a place where we store all this information for a long time. I would like to thank you a lot for your presentation. Indeed, we are talking about a very big development, the 4.0 revolution, which has an impact on what are the competencies that we actually provide to students, not only to those who do the technical qualifications, but also all students in general, because they could enter that market. Not only Industry 4.0 starts to be impacting some sectors before others, because you start with the more technical sectors, but these will become more and more an issue for all sectors, even sectors that now are not engaged by this type of revolution. So I would like to open the floor for questions for Chanel from the audience. Let me see if there are questions already. We have Arthur Shears that actually raises the issue if any countries regularly use the DACUM process to develop relevant occupational profiles and then curricula, because the process actually describes needed competences. Did you actually take in consideration DACUM in your project? Do you use different methodologies?
Valerie is the project coordinator. Maybe she can make an explanation about your question.
Hi, everybody. We are trying to creative approach to meet the demands from the SMEs. Now we are different kind of the project. For example, first of all, we can conduct a survey among the SMEs, and we gather the information about the demands of the SMEs or what they want to the graduated people. After that, we can arrange the curricula, the line with the demands. After that, we can open the class and create the curriculum and give the curriculum.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting. Okay. I was wondering, in your survey, to what extent, in addition to the competence of the new employee, to what extent did you discuss the updating of the competences of the current employee and the complexity of upscaling their competences in relation to the skills needed by Industry 4.0?
We have the new project, EU project. Now we are creating the which-oriented, augmented based on curriculum, because we realize that firms need a technical person in their field. That's why I think they want more practical people in their sector, and it's very expensive for the firm to retrain the person. That's why we are creating the VR and ER based on curriculum.
Excellent. Indeed, the issue of the cost of retraining is one of the most important issues. I mean, when pedagogies insist so much on the key competence and the capacity to learn, the capacity to continue learning of students, one of the key reasons is that it's difficult for companies afterwards to actually do it themselves. So the more society change, and in the next 30 years, you know that the competence required by employee will change inevitably. The more people will have to adapt. And if the cost is always high for companies, then it's going to be quite complex. And the risk is that companies manage to actually get rid of the oldest generation of employee who end up on the labor market without the necessary skills to re-enter the labor market, and you end up with a lot of the high long-term unemployment for colleagues.
It's very true, but I think it is for the specific sector, such as the renewable energy sector, because it's very important. They want a qualified person in their sector, but it's very difficult to find it. That's why, for example, you can't change the curriculum based on the VR and virtual reality and augmented reality. It's very good for them, and its retraining is very cheap for the SMEs in this sector. That's why I think we can detect this important sector in country. After that, we can update the curriculum.
Excellent. Are there additional questions from the audience? I don't see questions in the chat. You can also raise your hand and actually pose the questions live. It's just that there's a lot of people. It's difficult for me to actually browse through all the participants to see if there are raised hands. Okay, I would just like to thank you very much for this presentation. I think that's one very much important element is of course we have to focus on pedagogy and how we change the way we teach to students to provide with key competences, but we should never forget about the importance of integrating the employers in the discussion. I think this project actually look exactly at that side. Even when we talk about pedagogical methodologies, I think the private sector always has something to say about it. So I think this is a very interesting view from the employers in relation to some very interesting revolution which is going on, which is the 4.0 industrial revolution. I would like to give the floor to Bob Mahe, which has raised his hand, so you can speak.
Hello.
Please, Mr. Mahe.
Yes, thank you very much for the platform and for the kind of this presentation that you prepare for us. Mine is just about the projects that could be formed under the groups of different clubs formed. I understand that there are different clubs or different groups that have been formed. And now my concern is that is there a possibility that these different groups of organizations from different countries could design together some projects under centers of vocational excellence and do the projects together? Because I understand that the projects which have been adding most of the African countries which have been under Erasmus K2 have been scrapped off, and now they have no any areas of how they can keep in the networks of European Union concerning with Erasmus Plus projects. So could these centers of vocational excellence have the provision of including African organizations in order to keep in the track of developing together under Skillman Europe? Thank you.
Vale, I think this is more a question for Skillman in terms of how to facilitate cooperation between the different potential partners of projects in the context of Erasmus.
Yeah, indeed. I think, Bob, we have already worked on a project together. Now I would like to hear more in detail what is the state of the art of this collaboration. But I guess, Bob, thank you very much for raising this point, because I will get back to you and kind of discuss this more in depth. I think the topic is much bigger than the time that we have allotted for this webinar, unfortunately, but I will definitely get back at you after today, okay?
Thank you.
There is a last questions for Valerie. I mean, who's from Arthur Shares, is actually asking whether technical level apprenticeships have been tried in Turkey, as in UK trainees can earn a master degree through apprenticeship. So the work-based learning goes up to the master degree, and that's a good way to develop high-quality employee. I know that Turkey has invested a lot on work-based learning. Valerie, if you can develop on that.
Sure.
This is possible in Turkey. Different vocational training methods are applying similar to German system in Turkey. I'm also a graduate from a vocational technical school, and I'm working as associated professor at the university. It's possible in Turkey.
Excellent. Valerie has kindly shared her email, so I think you can address specific questions on this initiative project to her directly, and so you can continue discussion and potentially discussing cooperation. Nazir, you've raised your hand. I think this is the last intervention because we ran out of time. Please.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, please. The floor is yours.
This is Hazrat Hussain from Pakistan. I'm principal of the Government Technical Teachers Training College here, and we are in the process of transforming it as a center of excellence. In the first place, I would thank all the presenters that today's webinar was very relevant to me and my college, because teachers training is one of our major area. And we are transforming our system, and student-based learning, student-focused learning is creating a lot of good inroads into the development of the competence of our students. And there are success stories as well, and there are success cases as well. But since we are in the process of transformation, and I'm looking for how possible I can get the support of the forum in terms of access to material, or in terms of some collaboration where we can collaborate and have some projects implemented here at my institution. So if there are possibilities from the forum or from any other forum somebody belongs to and who's on attending today this webinar, so they can share with me. I'll share my email and
thank you very much. I think you can share your email. Vale, correct me if I'm wrong. The peer learning club is always open, where you can actually contribute and raise questions and possibility for cooperation, isn't it?
Yeah, and actually I would recommend you to do that. I would ask Emiliano if he could share the links to join the peer learning clubs again in the chat box, so you are facilitated on this point. The discussions are going to go on after today, so I would strongly suggest you to join one or all of them. And then if you want, you can get in touch with us and we can talk further opportunities with that, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to everybody for your participation, to the speakers for their very high level contribution. I pass the floor to Valentina for promotion of the next Skillman event.
Sure. Thank you, Filippo. Thank you very much. Again, we never sleep, so we are already working on the next webinar next week about social inclusion in TVET and skills development.
Wow, good.
So that is another event that I encourage everybody to join. Is going to be held next week, the 23rd of June at 10 a.m. I'm going to share all the information later on this week for you to register to this event. Right now, Emiliano is sending a link. If you already want to register for the event, I would encourage all of you to do so. But thank you very much for attending today's event. It was very interesting and very inspiring from my side. I learned so much, and thank you for the two examples to the two best practices that shared with us that experience. Most of times, those are even more useful than anything else, like to emulate how others do to draw inspiration from that. Thank you very much to the European Training Foundation for their help and support in the organization of this event, and Florian for his outstanding presentation today. I would leave you to this, and I just remind all of you that the materials of today's presentation and all the video will be shared in the page that I shared already in the chat on our Skillman.eu website for you to enjoy. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day, your night, your evening, depending on where you are. I hope to see you next week, and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.